Hello everybody, and welcome back to another mathematics video. In this video, we will be exploring the beautiful world of the Pythagoras Theorem. And at the end of this video, you should be able to use the Pythagoras Theorem to find for missing sides or find for a missing side in a right angle triangle. So let's head straight into this lesson. So first of all, what is the Pythagoras Theorem? So first thing that we must know is that we only use the Pythagoras Theorem when we are dealing with right angle triangles only. We cannot use it when we are dealing with equilateral triangles, scalene triangle, or any other type of triangle other than right angle triangle. The theorem says, in a right angle triangle, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. Now the hypotenuse, that is just a big word to represent the longest side in the triangle. So the hypotenuse is the longest side in the triangle. So this theorem basically says the square of the longest side is equal to the sum of the squares of the two remaining sides. Now how do we find the hypotenuse? How do we identify the hypotenuse? Now the hypotenuse is always a side that is opposite where the 90 degrees is or where the right angle is. So if the right angle is here, the hypotenuse will be the side opposite that, which is there. So the hypotenuse in this case would be this side. So it's the square of the longest side is equal to the sum of the squares of two remaining sides. And this is the mathematical equation to represent the Pythagoras theorem. A square is equal to b square plus c square. In some books you will see c square is equal to a square plus b square. But the letters don't matter. It's just the square of the longest side is equal to the sum of the squares of two remaining sides. In this case, if this is the right angle triangle, we know here would be A, here would be B, and here would be C. So it's the square of the longest side, in this case which is A, so it's A square, is equal to the sum of the squares, so B square plus C square of the two remaining sides. And then we just, put in our values and we solve. So let's head into an example. So in this example, we see we are given two sides. We are given 12 and 9, and we are asked to find for C. So in this case, we see that we use the Pythagoras theorem. We have two sides and we have to find the last side. So you must be given two sides and you want to find the missing side. It doesn't matter which two sides you're given, as long as you're given two sides in a right angle triangle and you're asked to find the third side, you use the Pythagoras theorem. So in this case, we see the longest side would be c squared. So it would be c squared is equal to the sum of the squares of the two remaining sides. This side would be 12 squared plus the other side, which would be 9 squared. So c squared would be, so 12 12s will give you 144 plus 9 times 9 would give you 81. So when c squared is equal to 144 plus 81, that will give us a value of 225. So c squared, so to solve for c, we see we have to take over the square. So we take the square over the equal sign, it will become the opposite, which is square root. So c would be equal to the square root of 225. And when we find the square root of 225, we will get a value of c being equal to 15. So we see the length of this side here is 15 cm. So let's move on to another example. So this example says, find the length of A. In this scenario, in this example, we see we are given this side here and this side. So we see the hypotenuse will always be the side opposite the right angle. So in this case, the hypotenuse is 17, or the longest side is 17 cm, and the other two sides will be 15 and 8. So we use the formula, the square of the longest side. So remember the longest side in this case would be 17. So it's 17 squared, because it's the square of the longest side, is equal to the sum of the squares of the two remaining sides. So this will be a square plus 15 square. And then we square everything. So 17 squared would give us 289. And this is equal to a squared plus 15 squared would give us 225. And now we want to solve for a. So this 225 is adding. When we take it over, it will subtract. So we'll have 289 subtract 225, and that is equal to a squared. So 289 subtract 225, that would give us 64. and that is equal to a squared. So of course you want to solve for a, so we take over the square, or we can say we take the square roots of both sides, however you want to look at it. So when we take over the square root, it become the square root of 64 is equal to a. Hence a would be equal to, when we square root 64, we'll get a value of 8. So a is equal to 8 cm. And that is how we answer this question. So in this example, we see that we were not asked to find the longest side, we were asked to find the other side. The longest side is always the subject of the formula, and then you put in the other two sides. So let's look at another example. So this example says, find the length of EF. So first of all, we need to identify what is EF. EF would be this side here. So we need to find the length of that side. So we see the hypotenuse would be opposite the right angle. So the hypotenuse in this case is 8.9 cm. So the square of the longest side should be 8.9 squared is equal to the sum of the squares of the two remaining sides. It should be EF, so we can say EF squared plus the other remaining side, which would be 7.9 squared. Square of the longest side, which is 8.9, is equal to the sum of the squares of the two remaining sides. The two remaining sides would be EF, and that's what we want to find, and 7.9 squared. So when we square 8.9, we will get a value of 79.21. That is equal to EF squared. And then when we square 7.9, we will get a value of 62.41. And then we want to solve for EF. So this 62.41 is added. When we take it over, we'll subtract. So we'll have 79.21 subtract 62.41 is equal to EF squared. So when we subtract that, we will have a value of 16.8. So when we subtract these two values, we'll have a value of 16.8, and that is equal to EF squared. So we take over the square to become the square root, so we can say EF is equal to the square root of 16.8. So I just switch sides, it doesn't matter. As long as the two sides are equal, we can just interchange the sides. So hence EF will be equal to, when we take the square root of 16.8, we'll see we'll have a value of approximately 4.099. So we can say EF is equal to approximately 4.1. And that would be our value for EF. So in this case, you see we were not asked to find the longest side again, but once again, we saw that the longest side was the subject of the formula, and we just put in our values and we solve. So the last example says, and this one is an application question, a ladder 10 meters long leans against a vertical wall. The foot of the ladder is 6 meters from the base of the wall. How high does the ladder reach on the wall? So you want to find how high this ladder will reach on the wall. So let's draw this diagram. So we see the ladder is 10 meters long and it leans against a vertical wall. So this here would be the vertical wall, and the ladder, so if we know a vertical wall, that means it's perpendicular to the floor, and the ladder leans against this vertical wall. So this is the ladder, and we see that this ladder is 10 meters long, and the foot of the ladder is 6 meters from the base of the wall. So between here and here would be 6 meters. And we want to find how high does the ladder go. So we can say we want to find for h. So we use the Pythagoras Theorem because we see we are dealing with a right angle triangle. So it says the square of the longest side, in this case we see the longest side would be 10 squared is equal to the 8 squared, because that is the remaining side, plus 6 squared. And we solve, we square everything. 10 tens will give you 100 is equal to 8 squared plus 6 squared would give us 36. And then we solve for h, so this 36 is added, and we take it over to subtract. So we'll have 100 subtract 36 is equal to 8 squared. 100 subtract 36, that will give us 64 is equal to 8 squared. So hence h will be equal to, so this square is squared, and we take it over to become the square root. So this will be the square root of 64. Hence h is equal to, when we square root 64, we get a value of 8. So how high does the ladder reach up the wall? So we can say therefore the ladder reaches 8 meters high. And that would be the answer to this question. So we saw in this case, we just had to sketch the diagram so that we can have an idea of what we're dealing with. And then we use the Pythagoras theorem because we are dealing with a right angle triangle and we are given two sides and we want to find the missing side. It doesn't matter which two sides we are given, as long as we're given two. And we have to find the missing one, we use the Pythagoras theorem. So I will leave you with this example for you to try on your own. A rectangular field measures 30 meters by 40 meters. Find the length of the diagonal of the field. This is one for you to try on your own. So remember some key things. The Pythagoras theorem only deals with right angle triangles, and you must be given two sides in order to find the other side. It doesn't matter which two sides you're given, and the longest side will always be the subject of the formula. So you start off with the longest side, you square it, that is equal to the sum of the squares of the two remaining sides. So with that, this has brought me to the end of this video, and I trust that you have a good understanding of the Pythagoras theorem. So I'll see you in the next one.